Always do that.
I'm a night rider. Every time that I go up past midnight, I swear I get higher. Swear I gotta get higher now. I'm a night rider. Every time that I give what I got, I supply that fire. I supply that fire.
What is going on, bookworms, and welcome back to another episode of Bookmarks with Bump. I am your host, the self-proclaimed Bump. It's right there in the title, aka Silverback Shondas, and we are back in action. And I say this because I am starting the first week of my half marathon training schedule. I've had 2 runs so far already, and they've just gone so well that it's hard not to glow about it. And it's not just the fact that the runs are going well, because rain, sleet, or snow, they tend to trend that way. However, the last few days, it's been 50, 45, 50 degrees, and to most people, you say, well, that's not really that warm. To me, somebody who's out there every day, no matter what, just like the postman, it has been such a great boost to go out there and feel the sunshine on my face and my hands, at least. I haven't had to wear gloves in the last 2 runs. And what this weather does for a lot of people is it provides this boost, right? So people experience seasonal depression in the New England region from time to time. This was one of those years where I just powered through it. I didn't even notice it, and I think a lot of that is due to the fact of the fact that I've built so much confidence from my career to where I am in life overall, and where I am in my goals in running. And just being focused on my goals and nothing else. I think that's something that's really helped propel me forward through the winter season, which is usually so dreadful, especially to a lot of people who want to be outside. But this weather is definitely enabling my crippling, my crippling running addiction, and which kind of parlays into what I want to touch on before I dive into the topics, because this is a topic-based show. If you're a first-time listener, it's not just me rambling about all of the things in life. We go through on a weekly basis bookmarks that I've stored away through my Twitter app that, I'm spending time on the toilet at work, and I think, oh, this is a great thing to read, but I don't have the time right now. I got to get back to business. So what I do, I go through bookmarks, I read through them, I read along with them. The links are always in the description, and as I say every single episode, please feel free to read along with me. There's always great content in there, whether it's videos, pictures, things that I can't really describe on an audio platform. It is a great thing to do when you're listening to the podcast, is to go through these threads with me. And we dive into the threads using my experience and my knowledge throughout life as a former addict, as a tradesman, as a certified personal trainer, as somebody who gives back, and as somebody who takes away. Basically, I'm a jackass of all trades. That's what I go on to say, and that's not a disparaging comment. That's actually something to boost you up. If you're able to do everything, that boosts the greatest ability that anybody could have, which is availability. That's a little football speak there, and I can't wait to get into what's going on in football a little bit later. But let me not digress too much. I was having a conversation this past week about addiction with somebody. And in my mind, addiction can be a very daunting thing to watch somebody go through. And I kind of had this realization. And when I did have this realization, it showed me a lot about myself, because sometimes I think maybe I might focus on myself too much. My goals are too important to me. I should put other people first a lot of time. I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, how a challenge for me was to make time for other people. And that's not always a challenge for a lot of people. People are very free to give their time away to the people that they love and care about. I would love to be able to be in that position, but I have things that I have to conquer. And a lot of us do. One thing that I had to conquer 7 years ago was addiction. And how did I do that? Well, I got plucked out of reality, to be honest with you. And when I had the moment to clear my mind for once in years, I was able to think like I'm not the only person. I think it takes a truly selfish person, or a sociopathic person, or a psychotic person to continue down the road of addiction and just not make an effort to get better. Um, you could say addiction is a disease all you want. Um, and this is going to be a little bit of controversy here, but I don't believe that it's a disease. Okay. It starts with a choice and it ends with a choice. And for me, it ended with a choice. It ended with the choice that I need to be here for the people who depend on me. And whether or not I didn't have a family where I was raising kids, but I have a family at home who cares about me. No matter what in your life, you're going to have a few things, and that's responsibilities, your well being, and people that care about you. And in order to truly pull yourself out of addiction, you have to put those three things ahead of you. I, in a way, addiction can be a very narcissistic thing. I think narcissists have a big problem with addiction because they're always thinking about themselves and what they can get out of life more than what they can do for other people. How can you serve somebody else has to be the number one priority when it comes to sobering up and getting yourself right. If you're surrounded by yes men, you're going to continue to do the things that you want to do. And for a while, that's what I did, was surround myself with people who thought my lifestyle was very, very cool. What I realized was that the people who truly cared about me left me behind, not because they wanted to, but because they had to. And after cleaning up my life, a lot of those people have come back into the fold. And that's been a very, what's the word I'm looking for here? It's been a very telling experience for me to see these people come back and to have these hard conversations. One of the biggest things about dealing with somebody with addiction is that you have to have a very hard conversation with them. And you have to be able to talk about the things that are difficult to talk about. I think that it's a huge building block for a relationship, honestly, to be able to put yourself in a position to be the person who, listen, in some senses, you have to be an asshole. And I've taken on that role pretty well when it comes to straightening the lives of people out, especially when it comes to people that I care about. I do more often than not um, put on the asshole shoes and walk right through the mud. And that's what we have to do. That's what you have to do for the people that you care about. You leave the ball in their court and they know you give them the tools and the intangibles to be able to run, shoot, dunk with it. But are they going to dribble up the court? Are they going to make the move that they have to make? That's up for them. And it's always going to be up to them, but you always have to be a person who lets them know, hey, I care about you, but you're a jackass and you got to straighten things out. Otherwise, you're going to continue to go down a very bad path that's going to lead you to nowhere great. And the biggest thing for me when it came to cleaning my act up was realizing that I have responsibilities and I have people who care about me very deeply. There's a point in my addiction where I thought nobody would miss me if I was gone. Um, there may be a lot of people who feel that way. On the other hand, people who never get over their addiction, people who never get past it, I truly believe that it's because they don't care about what other people think, feel, or do for them. Other people in their lives are just little tools that they can move around and use like a tool. You use a tool to get a job done. And I think some people who never get over addiction have that viewpoint on people. I think it's very hard to be a sociopath or a narcissist and get over your addictions. And to everybody who's sobered up and gotten sober, congratulations on proving to yourself and the people around you that you are not those things. Somebody who was those things, though, who was drunk on power, and I'd have to say, without even knowing the guy, and probably without this even being a personality trait back in the day when he reigned, was King Henry VIII. Yes, King Henry VIII is making another appearance on Bookmarks with Bump because I was so fascinated with the fact that he hired 4 men to wipe his ass and called them the grooms of stool and ended up knighting them, that I was scrolling through X and I found a thread on all about King Henry VIII, and I thought it would be a great idea to dive into what this guy was all about, because I'm curious, as anybody probably would be, finding out that you had somebody to wipe your bum for you, um, what this guy was really up to throughout his reign. So, Manifest Lord put out a thread, and we're going to dive into it right now. So, like I always say, please follow along with the links in the description, and let's see what King Henry VIII is all about. King Henry VIII, known for beheading his wives and desperation for a male heir. Now, this is something that I did know about King Henry, is that anytime he would marry a woman and get her pregnant and figure out, oh, this is a daughter she gave me, that woman then became useless, and instead of trying again, as a normal man or anybody with a brain in their head would do, he would have them killed. He really needed a male heir. He needed a prince to become a king. We move on in the thread. A party lover with a fancy for chopping people's heads off, he executed 70,000 people during his reign, and it ends with a bang as he exploded after he died. I imagine wiping that guy's butt. Like, it must have been, if this man had such putrid insides that he ended up exploding, I could only imagine what his dumps were like. Let's get to know this king, who was a paradox, a strong ruler, yet an anxious and insecure man. Number 1, he was never meant to be the king. His elder brother Arthur was heir to the throne until he died from sweating sickness at 15. Upon the death of his father, Henry was coronated on June 24th, 1509, when he was just 17 years old. The young King Henry was said to be clever and fun in contrast to his boring father. He was over 6 feet tall and loved jousting, hunting, composing music, and throwing big, expensive parties. Number 2, this is treacherous. This is just terrible. We're going to get sick reading this. He married his brother's wife. What the hell? His first marriage was to his brother's widow, Catherine of Aragon, when he came to the throne, and they remained married for nearly 24 years until he had their marriage annulled to marry Anne Boleyn. Anne was beheaded after Henry accused her of adultery. Days after Anne's execution, Henry married his third wife, who was adultering, Jane Seymour, who died after giving birth. He then married Anne, whom he divorced after 6 months, saying she was ugly. Is that proper grounds for divorce? Wow. I guess she didn't have a great personality either, huh? What the hell? The next comes Catherine Howard, who was also beheaded on infidelity charges. I mean, this guy jumps from wife to wife within days. How can you get married days after a divorce without without adultering yourself? This makes no sense to me. Henry guy is out of his mind. Henry married his sixth wife, Catherine Parr, in July 1543, a spirited and educated widow who had the wildest influence on court culture. He made a whole church to marry his mistress. Henry fell in love with Anne Boleyn while he was still married to his first wife. He wanted Anne to remain his mistress, but she demanded to be his only wife. He asked Pope for divorce, but the Pope wouldn't allow it. Henry took matters into his own hands and broke away from the Catholic Church, creating his own Church of England and naming himself the head. That's one way to get around it. He appointed his friend Thomas Cranmer as Archbishop of Canterbury and made him grant a divorce. Followers of the new church became Protestants, whereas worshippers of the Roman Catholic Church, Catholics. I promise to take you as my sole mistress, casting off all others than yourself out of mind and affection, and to serve you only. That was from one of Henry's many love letters to Anne. Sounds great. He executed 70,000 people during his reign. In his later years, Henry grew more paranoid and ill-tempered, sentencing almost everyone to death by beheading. It's estimated 57,000 to 72,000 people were executed, along with his two wives, during his 37-year reign. more than any other English monarch. He ruled with an iron fist. One of the most brutal executions was that of the aged Margaret. The 67-year-old countess tried to escape. Her captors were forced to pin her, while the amateur executioner severed the poor woman's head and neck after the 11th blow. My God. He was obsessed with male heir. Not hair, but heir. Henry was desperate for a male heir to inherit his throne. Henry's first wife, Catherine of Aragon, had many pregnancies, but unfortunately most ended in stillbirths. The royal couple were thrilled when their firstborn son Henry, born in 1511, but sadly, he only lived until he was 7 weeks old. The only surviving child from Henry and Catherine of Aragon's marriage was a daughter named Mary. Mary later went on to become Mary I, the first Queen of England and Ireland. He had another girl during his marriage to Anne Boleyn, Elizabeth, who went on to become one of the greatest monarchs in English history, Elizabeth I. In 1537, Henry's dream of a son finally came true when his third wife, Jane Seymour, gave birth to Prince Edward. He never wore his clothes twice. Henry's desire to shine, combined with his love of luxury, also extended to his clothing and appearance. Keen to show off how many clothes he owned, Henry often gave his garments away to members of his court. The materials used to create his clothes were imported from all over the world. In a typical year, the king would spend at least 3,000 pounds on clothing. Probably fit 3,000 pounds into them, too. Oh, this isn't great. This is another first. All right, bear with me. The motor of the podcast just fell, aka my phone. That's never happened before. In 1519, he was described by Venetian ambassador Guistan as being the best dressed sovereign in the world. Now I'm looking at this outfit, and I hope you're all looking at it as well. And I must say that it is elegant, but I mean, the guy's wearing a dress. His head is so big. And if you're a Kill Tony fan, it's hard to look at this guy and not see the resemblance between he and William Montgomery. Queen Elizabeth was his illegitimate descendant. Henry VIII's womanizing reputation has lasted throughout history, although there are mentions of 3 specific mistresses, one of which was Anne Boleyn's sister Mary. This guy's a dog. Some historians believe that Mary's children and Catherine and Henry were fathered by the king, which would mean that Elizabeth II and Princess Diana of Wales were also illegitimate descendants of Henry VIII himself. In terms of legitimate children born in wedlock, Henry VIII's royal Tudor line ended with Elizabeth I, the Virgin Queen, and his only acknowledged illegitimate child is Henry Fitzroy. He exploded after his death, a bad injury in 1536 after he had fallen from his horse at a joust, and a recurring leg ulcer restricted him physically. As a result, the older King Henry became hugely overweight and struggled to walk. At the age of 50, he had a 54-inch waist. I don't even think they make pants that size. His weight ballooned to the stage where he needed a form of wheelchair. He was the first scooter guy in Walmart. He died on the 28th of January at Whitehall Palace. It was said that the corpse exploded or that the coffin cracked and leaked before he was buried at St. George's Chapel in Windsor. That's disgusting, man. Just repulsive. Oh. So if he took power in 1509 at 17 and he had this injury in 36, that would be 27 years later. So 17 plus 27, 24, 44 years old. 44 years old, out there jousting, really being an active guy in his 40s. This kind of changed the whole trajectory of his life, didn't it? It all wraps up with Henry VIII was a controversial king who made many scandalous and significant changes during his rule. He changed the face of Christianity, and his influence can still be seen in England today. Without a doubt, but the first comment here is poor Anne Boleyn. And absolutely, it is poor Anne Boleyn. We have another one here that he deserved to explode. The rotten, useless king. Very far, 100%. Um, did he deserve to explode? I mean, it was after death, so sure. I can't get over the whole sweating disease that his brother died from. What was that sweating disease? I sweat quite a bit. As great of shape that I'm in, I do have an issue where anytime physical activity is taking place, I do tend to sweat. My AC kicks on a little bit earlier than most people, and I wonder if I have the sweating disease. But I'm just glad that it hasn't killed me yet. So at 44, this guy was still jousting. Um, it kind of leads into the next thread here from Jason Helmus, who appears to be in his 50s or 60s, and he could appear that way just because of how absolutely jacked and shredded he is. If I was the guy on the left and I wanted to transform into the guy on the right, and I had 1 year to do it, here's 14 things I would do to make it happen. So we're going to dive into some fitness and health tips here. I do implore you to check this thread out because this guy is, this is what I'm going to look like when I'm 50. I guarantee you. Let's move on with the thread. Start eating 225 grams of protein a day. That's my goal weight in pounds, he says. Protein reduces hunger, builds muscle, and boosts your metabolism. Eat animal protein, dairy, and whey shakes. No excuses. You will build muscle and recover from workouts quickly. Oh, yeah. Now, this is almost misleading, but it's not. Because he goes on to say right there, that's his goal weight in pounds. Your protein consumption should be your goal weight. It doesn't always have to be your body weight in grams. However, making it your goal weight can be easy to cut calories or add calories if you're trying to bulk. You always want to have 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Number 2, eat 10 times your body weight in calories per day. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. Adjust this number downwards as you lose. Yes, because you will lose weight, so you will have to adjust how many calories you're eating. Do not take days off. Make this happen. You will lose 1 to 3 pounds of body fat per week. Plan your meals a day in advance, minimum. Never go to bed without having a game plan for the next day, at least. This includes weekend. Why? Because having a plan reduces your chances of messing up. Never go into a situation unprepared. Now, there's a funny saying that I do find to ring true from time to time, that when you make a plan, God laughs at it. And this is true. And this is why I don't plan things. I make an idea of things. I have an idea of how my day is going to go. And if it does go that way, I know what I'm going to be doing. But if it doesn't go that way, I do have an idea on a way around it. It's good to have an idea of what's going on. And number 4, embrace sobriety and eliminate alcohol. You can't get into great shape with getting hammered every weekend. It bloats you, it makes you gain weight, it ruins your sleep, it wrecks your recovery. Another thing that it does is mess up your judgment. I can't name you how many times I was at the bar and before I went home, I went to Taco Bell. Did I eat as much as I needed to that day? Of course I did, but I wanted more. And I didn't stop myself because I had poor judgment. Number 5, lift weights 3 to 4 times a week religiously. Train your whole body, pushes, pulls, squats, and hip hinges. Record all of your workouts, repeat them week to week, improve your performance, show perfect form. That's the number 1 thing. You don't have to add a ton of weight to the bar. You don't have to worry about what anybody else is doing. The gym, when you're working on your fitness, when you're working on your health, that's the number 1 time, and pretty much I like to say the only time in your life that you can be selfish. When you're working on your career or when you're working on your body, it's the number 1 chance for you to be selfish. You don't have to worry about what anybody else is doing inside of the gym. They're not you and you're not them. Everybody's going to work to different capabilities. What's important is finding a weight that it becomes uncomfortable throughout the set, but it's comfortable for you to do it with proper form. Number 6, get an hour of walking in every day. Get a desk treadmill if you have to. Split up your walks if you have to. Do whatever you have to do, but you need to walk more. 2,000 steps per day while you spend 10 hours in front of the computer working isn't enough. Make it happen. Number 7 is to take creatine every day. At least 10 grams of creatine, this says. Creatine should be in the water supply. There are no downsides, only upsides: bone density, muscle gain, cognitive improvements, tendon, joint, and ligament health. 5 grams is probably enough, but it's cheap. Aim for 10 grams just to be sure. Focus on high quality, ample sleep. You need proper rest and recovery. Lights off by 10 p.m., turn off all phones and electronics at least an hour before bed. Take some glycine to enhance your sleep. This is something I've never heard of. Blackout curtains, sleep mask, and earplugs help tremendously. 9. Practice uniform eating. What is this? Find meals that hit the trifecta. Healthy, it hits your numbers. Tasty, you enjoy it. Repeatable, you don't get tired of it. Eat these meals on rotation every single day. This automates your fat loss and makes everything a million times easier. Anything becomes a million times easier once you enjoy it. That's why the biggest thing is finding an enjoyable way to get exercise in and finding enjoyable foods to eat to keep you in your deficit. Number 10 is to dine out 1 meal per week maximum. No more getting takeout for lunch each day. Pack your lunch for work and eat it. Avoid getting carry out on your way home. Have healthy, tasty meals at home you can make quickly. Learn how to cook, even if it's just a little bit. Weigh yourself daily. Only look at the weekly averages. Your scale weight will bounce around in a 3 to 5 pound range. Don't stress it. Take your weight each day, but only compare your weekly averages to each other. This will take the blips out of the equation. So if you're weighing yourself 7 times a week, each day you take that number, you write it down, you record it in your notes in your phone, whatever you got to do. Each one, go through each one, each and every single one, add them all up, divide it by 7, that's your weight. And do that week in and week out. Which prompts me to say I've lost another 2 pounds. I'm sitting at 195. I'm 10 pounds away from my goal weight. I would love to get underneath 185, but I know I could perform very well at 185 in a longer style of race. So we're trending in the right direction. Number 12 is to take body measurements weekly, which is something I haven't heard of, and this is great. See, I'm not just giving knowledge, I'm learning myself. Take body measurements weekly. There will be some weeks you don't lose on the scale, but what does your tape measure say? Are your biceps increasing? Is your weight decreasing? Are you making progress? Even if the scale is being annoying, measurements tell the whole story. Number 13 is to take progress pictures once every 3 months. Progress does not happen overnight. But every 3 months, take a picture in the same lighting and conditions. You should see progress. This is very motivating and will keep you hungry for more. Most importantly, change your identity and commit to this for 1 full year. Stop being the person who gives up every time life gets busy. This is my favorite. You can find an hour to lift. You can go to the grocer and keep healthy meals stocked up. You can make better choices and become a different person this year, but you have to believe you can do it. Stop waffling and get focused. 2025 is your year, and it absolutely is. Every year is your year. Every day is your day. You just have to stop saying tomorrow. I'll get to it. All of the excuses are always going to mean less than the reason. And that's 14 reasons how, or 14 ways how you can hit your goal. And if you're one of those people who are making excuses like, I don't know what my nutrition should be like, I have the perfect thread to follow that up. V-Shape Fitness put out a thread. I torched 39 pounds of fat in 19 weeks by changing one thing: nutrition. This is exactly what I ate every single day. Struggling to drop fat? Learn this. Stop doing hours of cardio. Dialing in your nutrition is the key to fat loss. It's how I lost 39 pounds of fat in 19 weeks. After years in the game, simplicity always scales. Below is exactly what I ate every day. Breakfast, low-fat Greek yogurt, and whey protein. 450 grams of Chobani Greek yogurt and 1 scoop of chocolate whey protein. 1 protein shake, 92 grams of protein, 27 grams of carbohydrates, and 5 grams of fat. It's an elite breakfast, which takes 30 seconds and makes 2 servings. And this is another one of those very easy, simple fixes for people who say they don't know where to start when they're eating. Number 2 is morning tea. Coffee. Espresso, and yes, with still full-fat milk, it's only 4 grams of fat inside of the coffee. 3 grams of protein, 10 grams of carbohydrates. Caffeine cranks that metabolism and is a good dopamine hitter instead of crappy food. He would have chicken, rice, and beans for lunch, 200 grams of chicken breast, 150 grams of white rice cooked, and 150 grams of green beans. He added some Nando's sauce and some pepper seasoning on the chicken for a meal that consisted of 52 grams of protein, 54 grams of carbohydrates, and 5 grams of fat. Now, if you notice, everything that he's saying about the food, it's weighed. He's weighing everything. And this is a guy who wanted to dial in and work on his nutrition to get better. Everything is weighed out. 200 grams of chicken. You got to have that kitchen scale in order to hit those goals dead on. The afternoon tea had chocolate oats, 50 grams of rolled oats, a banana, 180 milliliters of milk, and 1 scoop of whey protein. For a meal that consisted of 40 grams of protein, 80 grams of carbohydrates, and 20 grams of fat. Dinner usually cooked double the below, and pack lunch for the next day. Okay, so chicken or steak, rice, and beans. 200 grams of chicken breast, 150 grams of white rice cooked, 150 grams of green beans or salad, Nando's sauce, and some pepper seasoning on the chicken. This guy must have a deal with Nando's or something. Protein, 52 grams, carbohydrates, 54 grams, and fat, 5 grams. The day's total was 210 grams of carbohydrates, 245 grams of protein, and 40 grams of fat. Very low fat, moderate diet here for a caloric total of 2176. He wants to show you how consistency in a dialed-in nutrition plan is what you need to get in great shape. So stop winging it. The only thing that changed to drop 37 pounds in 19 weeks with zero extra cardio is a gradual decrease in carbs. Nutrition. But to do this successfully, you need to work out 2 things. Your daily caloric intake, which you can find on prettydamnedrip.com in their TDEE calculator, and your daily protein intake. Then hit those consistently. That is it for successful and sustainable fat loss. Remove the guesswork. But why are these meals so simple? Friction is the enemy of nutritional success. Simplicity scales. Low friction meals, which taste good that you can eat every day, are so important. Do not overcomplicate it. So if you want to get lean and optimize your health, nutrition is your key lever to losing fat. Get it? P.S. You looked better before. This has nothing to do with it. The premise of the thread is simply that no matter how lean you want to get, nutrition is your answer to do it. Use it to take your body fat percentage to whatever your goal is. Get after it. And you should get after it. This friction is the enemy of nutritional success is something that I have adhered to very well over the last few years. I eat so similar. Now, I go against the Heinz model a little bit because I do enjoy to eat out from time to time. But on those days, it's a different type of occasion. And also, I know where I'm at beforehand. I'm eating less before I go out. It's not like I'm eating everything exactly the same. I know where I can pick and choose and put different things in. And as you gain experience with your nutritional approach to your fitness, that is something that you'll be able to do as well. I think it's possible for everybody to lose weight while eating great tasting food. That's why the egg burritos that I make for dinner are a staple, and it's pretty much almost 7 days out of 7 where I'm eating egg burritos for dinner. Why? It's after my workout. It's packed with protein. I know exactly what's going into it, and I don't have to guess anything. The hardest part when it comes to dieting, and this isn't even dieting, this is just a different way of eating. This is just being successful with your nutrition. The biggest thing is, what am I going to eat? What am I going to eat? Where am I going to get this protein from? Where am I going to get these carbs from? If you're doing the same thing on a day-to-day basis, yeah, it might become monotonous or robotic, but what matters more? This is another example of where the excuses can outnumber the reason, but it will never outweigh.
Here we go! Buck, here we go! Here we go! Here we go! Here we go! Here we go!
Yeah, here we go. Back into balling with Bump. And football season is over. But I just touched on something about um, what matters the most. And what I have here is a thread of what mattered the most during the Super Bowl before I dive into the draft combine and how things are going in Indianapolis this week. The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl 59 champions. Now labeled a super team by those who doubted them, this special group taught life lessons on intangibles that don't show up in the box score. A thread of the plays and moments that mattered the most. There was an immense confidence. The Eagles drew strength from each other and trusted each other the entire way. Linebacker Zach Bond, who came up from nothing this year, manifested it. Come on, Jahan. Jalen Hurts dialed up a play to get the third wide receiver on the team a chance at a big play, and he beat his man downfield. After a mean blitz pickup, Saquon looked at the Chiefs defender and uttered, "Yeah. Got that bitch back for me." Jalen Hurts to Jalen Carter. These guys wanted it more. Now, this is one of those threads that you got to follow along with on Twitter. Not X, it's Twitter. This is all encompassed by the NFL Films footage that they put out following the Super Bowl. And all of these are great videos. I mean, this is the type of content that I love seeing from the NFL, that behind-the-scenes feeling type content where you really see how the players are handling the moments in the game, handling their emotions, handling the situations. It's a great thing to watch for somebody who loves athletics, who's somebody who loves sports. Nonetheless, Saquon's leadership. We heard about it after we heard about it after Philadelphia signed him, and it showed up in the biggest game. He focused on keeping the defense grounded at all costs. Now, Saquon didn't have the greatest game, rushing 25 times and having his lowest season total for the year. He still played a huge role in this game. Ring, ring, back, hip, like it was an old Nokia cell phone clip. That's the MVP recognition and throw on 3rd and 7 in the Super Bowl. Drain them, deflate them, and break them. Arguably the most iconic play of Super Bowl 59. The play that is in question was Cooper DeJean's pick 6 of Patrick Mahomes early in the first quarter. That's some veteran shit, Bond tells DeJean after the pick 6. Zach Bond would know. He'd been a veteran. He'd been in the league for years before getting the shot that he got with the Eagles. And I think that's part of the thing that made him such a powerful player this year was the chip that he was playing with on his shoulder. He played like a guy who had something to prove. And he did. He proved everybody. He was up for Defensive Player of the Year after coming off of the special teams for the New Orleans Saints. The defense was beyond focused. They took Saquon's words seriously and huddled up to take a deep breath after the rush of emotions. The poise of the group was on fire. Returned linebacker Nick Morrow told Zach Bond that it was coming before his interception. They all gravitated towards each other's energy all game. Jordan Davis hit the nail on the head. Forcing Mahomes' magic all game would pay off. You can't sustain success off backyard football, no matter what ESPN tells you. And that's a matter of fact. That's exactly what the defensive line for the Eagles did. Only rushing 4 players all game, not blitzing once, leaving the wide receivers covered in the field and making it very difficult for Patrick Mahomes to find an opening to squeeze the ball in. Saquon Barkley made a great catch, but what you didn't see on the TV was the way he tight ropes the sideline, keeping himself eligible to touch the ball. He didn't have to use his usual elite game, but the intangibles are second to none. Now, if you don't know this, if you're the first player to touch the ball after going out of bounds, it rules, I believe it actually would forego the down. So instead of being 3rd and 7, it would be 4th and 7, and they'd be in a punting situation. Nonetheless, veteran cornerback Avonte Maddox puts his stamp on the game after being benched earlier this season. And then, an interception. Well, not an interception, but a huge pass breakup in a moment where they needed it. The dagger was the Devontae Smith touchdown late in the game there. Nick Sirianni told Kellen Moore, just call it. If we hit this play, we win the game. They hit it, and they won. I love when they doubt you. They can't mess with you. That's what they're saying to Jalen Hurts, and he's saying, I know. Somebody who has unwavering confidence and somebody that I admire. I mean, Jalen Hurts is, to me, even in the games where he doesn't perform the greatest. To me, what he shows that makes him such a capable quarterback are his leadership qualities. And that's something that teams would only really be able to recognize throughout this week. This week in Indianapolis is the draft combine. And the biggest thing about the draft combine, I think, more than the show and tell series that they do when they drag the players out and have them perform these circus acts and go and run and jump and see who's the greatest athlete, they go through interviews. Now, the combine used to be a thing where it would be all medical before they introduced the drills. But the main thing is when you sit down as a prospect and you talk to the leadership of the team. I think that has to be something that the Eagles saw when they decided they were going to draft Jalen Hurts back 5 years ago. They saw the leadership and the capability of this young man based off of him, his persona, who he is as a person. A lot of other things happen during the NFL draft combine. You have your 40-yard dash, your broad jump, your three-cone shuffle. Quarterbacks go through throwing camps, and one thing that you'll be hearing about this week is who's opting out of these things. And I think for a lot of people, there's good reason to opt out. I think everything that they could say is shown on tape. A big instance of this is Will Howard. Could he boost his stock? Possibly. But I think what could really boost the Ohio State quarterback stock was the way that he performed throughout the playoffs. I mean, if that doesn't boost him into the first round, I don't know what will. I have a Field Yates mock draft pulled up because he's typically kind of spot on. Him and Daniel Jeremiah have been the best with these mock drafts over the last few years. Number 1 pick for the Tennessee Titans will be Travis Hunter, who can play wide receiver or cornerback. Number 2 would be Abdul Carter, and a lot of these are switched for a lot of different mock drafts. But your top 3 picks, who I'm going to talk about here, Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, and Cam Ward for the New York Giants. I think that's spot on for the Giants because they don't have a quarterback on their roster right now, and that's what they need the most is a quarterback that they can build around. But Abdul Carter to the Browns is something that intrigues me because Myles Garrett is talking about leaving there, so that will fill the gap there. And Travis Hunter, I mean, you could put him anywhere on the field and he'll perform well. The biggest thing out of the draft combine so far, and we're only a couple days into it, would probably be the drama. The insider drama between Jordan Schultz and Ian Rappaport. It's alleged that there was an argument inside of a Starbucks. Jordan Schultz, whose father owns Starbucks, was in a Starbucks yesterday evening, and there was Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network. Apparently, them two ran into each other and almost got into fisticuffs. Now, this caused Ian Rappaport to call in the NFL security. A questionable action, I think, but this guy's not a dog. I mean, we know this about Ian Rappaport, so I guess we can't really say too much bad about him. But I think for me, so far, that's the most interesting thing to come out of the combine all year. And I'm interested to see how that will develop. I mean, it's so funny when you hear players that run into each other who have beef, who bicker back and forth. But to hear it coming out of the insider world now is something that really intrigues me. This information that they're getting is just so valuable to each other and to what they do as a living that they're gonna fight about it. Jordan Schultz has been proved wrong quite a few times about things that he's reported on. This week he got a good one when they said Rob Gronkowski was eyeing a comeback and ending a second retirement, when he said that he got off the phone with Rob Gronkowski and he said that it's kind of crazy that anybody's thinking about this. I just got back from Mexico or wherever the hell he was. Nonetheless, the insider world is ablaze between Jordan Schultz and Ian Rappaport, and I'm ablaze with the fact that I have a couple runs coming up this week, and I'll be able to do it outside in just a hoodie. With that being said, I'm about ready to wrap up this podcast here and send it out to the airwaves. As always, it's all love. Wait, let me not end it yet. I have to do shameless plugs. Please follow me on social medias. You can find me on Twitter at BumpOfTTS or on Instagram at TCGXBump, where you will be notified when these go up. It's usually and always is, Sunday at 4 a.m., where just Mark Wahlberg and I are existing and making things happen in the world. Moving on from that, what was I talking about? I think that's really it. Just my socials. Please hit like and subscribe, leave a review, leave a rating, leave a comment down below on what your favorite part of the podcast was, or something. Here's the idea. Leave a comment on this video, on this podcast, on Spotify. Leave a comment on what your favorite repeatable meal is. What is something that you can eat every single day? I think I'll go out on that note. Please like, subscribe, share with your friends, and as always, it's all love. God bless.
Show you what it's worth. Money to the ceiling. I started at the dirt. I've been riding, wave like I surf. I've been leaning in and out of work. I could show you what it's worth. Money to the ceiling. I started at the dirt. I'm a night rider. Every time that I go up past midnight, I swear I get higher. Swear I gotta get higher now. I'm a night rider. Every time that I give what I got, I supply that fire. I supply that fire, man. I'm a night rider. Every time that I go up past midnight, I swear I get higher. Swear I gotta get higher now. I'm a night rider. Every time that I go up past midnight, I swear I get higher. Swear I gotta get higher, man.